So that kind of centrality being given to one thing. So individualism is an ideology, is a thought process which uh, which not emerges, it has been there, but it becomes prominent during the Renaissance period. Primarily because of all these various processes that we earlier saw, and also because of scholasticism, which gives importance to the ability of the human beings to understand the world. Then, yeah, we also saw, I think, in the earlier leg of the lecture that this is something that gave birth to various universities in all these places, Bologna, Oxford, so on and so forth. So the universities are important, and this is something very dear to all of us, I believe. That it's a space, it's a place where one can deliberate on a variety of topics. So even if we belong to the history or anthropology or economics or physics department, that alone does not make for the existence of a university. Departments are, yes, they are specialization, but the idea of a university involves the interaction between the various branches of knowledge. So it's much beyond what the sum of all the departments will make it. It's much beyond just the departments. It also involves the interactions, the interrelationships between various ways of thinking. Scholasticism is something that gives rise to these universities, wherein such deliberations are happening about the existence of the world, meaning of life, all those things, and other things also like discoveries and the more technical and practical subjects as well. Okay. Yeah. Earlier we saw Thomas Aquinas giving importance to Aristotle's worldview, that is giving importance to what is called as Pratyaksha Praman in Indian philosophy. The right word would be materialist understanding of the world, and to understand the world with the help of its material components. Just like Aquinas, there were many thinkers who in this period made major contributions to the ideas that brought about the European Renaissance. Petrarch is somebody who's credited as one of the first tourists. That is, he did not travel for a pilgrimage, or he did not travel for trade or for preaching. He traveled just for the fun of it. So he's credited as the first tourist, just out of interest, kind of. Anyway, so this person is a religious priest living in the 14th century, and he visits a place called as Mount Vento. And of course, he is marveling at the greatness of nature and all of that. But at the same time, he says that when I felt that the summit of the mountain was scarcely a cubit high compared with the range of human contemplation. So at the same time, he realizes that human contemplation is something which is extremely uh, extremely important for our existence, one, and it is also something that is so great that compared with that, nature will also fade away. So earlier visions of the world, earlier versions of reality always gave precedence to nature over man. They always gave precedence to society over individual. They always gave precedence to God over humans. In all these various binaries, if we want to understand the world in those days, in those with the help of these binaries, earlier, that is during the pre-Renaissance period, the entities that I mentioned first were given importance. That is, nature is important, God is important, society is important. And individual, being the other half of the binary, was always given less importance. They felt that individual is not very important, man is not important, nature is important, God is important, society is important. But this is a period which sees philosophers giving importance to, giving due credit to abilities of human beings to understand the world. So be it Petrarch, be it the earlier scholastic traditions, you will always find that these thinkers are trying to give centrality to human beings. Hence, the ideology, it is said, which provides a basis for the whole happenings of European Renaissance, that ideology is called as humanism, keeping humans at the center of your understanding of the world. Now, so this humanism, individualism, scholasticism, all these are of course overlapping concepts, but suffice it to say here that the ideology is giving importance to abilities of human beings as against the potential of God, nature, society, so on and so forth. With all these things happening, contribution of the Arabs, then what was the other factor that we discussed earlier today after the Arab contribution? What was the earlier factor that we discussed after the Arab contribution? Wake up.
Crusades.
With a lot of prompting. Okay. Yes. Distribution of the Arabs. Then you have the thinkers of scholasticism and other such ideologies and individualism that Renaissance seems to come about. And the final straw, as it were, or the immediate reason of this coming about of the European Renaissance seems to be the fall of Constantinople, that is the capital city of Eastern Roman Empire. We saw through the various pictures that I had earlier shown you of the various crusades, and one of the reasons why I showed those pictures was trying to draw your attention to the fact that Islam and Muslims were seen in through, of course, xenophobic lenses in those pictures, and in generally the understanding is also the Muslims as the other with O capital. So this is a period wherein you already have a lot of prejudice in the minds of the people against Muslims, against the Jewish people, against all sorts of people who did not subscribe to your own brand of religion, your own brand of way of living, so on and so forth. As a result of this xenophobia, as a result of this fear of the other, what happens is when Constantinople falls, and it is the Ottomans, it is the Muslim rulers who come to power, there is this process of exodus that happens from Constantinople, and the people run away, fearing for their lives, fearing for their preservation of their texts, manuscripts, knowledge, so on and so forth. They run away to Italy, thinking that now that the Eastern Roman Empire has been destroyed, what do we have? What place can we go to? We can go to the Vatican. Pope Gregory, of course, being a very smart person in this respect, 8th Pope Gregory the 8th, he opened immediately a college, a kind of a hostel, a kind of a monastery place of learning for learning about the Greek thought. This place is called as Collegio Pontificio Greco. To pontificate, to think about things Greek. He opened this institution in Rome and received Greek, scholars of Greek and Roman also learning, and with the result that this suddenly overnight, as it were, became a place of learning, a place of rejuvenation of Greco-Roman texts, learning, philosophies, cultures, so on and so forth. So 1453, the year is important for all these various reasons. In the middle of the 15th century, we find that there is a sudden exodus from Byzantine Empire to Vatican, to the city of Vatican, and people start rejuvenating, they start relearning, repolishing, as it were, texts, ideologies, thought processes from the classical Greco-Roman period. I think we'll stop here and move on to the various inventions in the next class. Thank you all.